Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm so glad you are here with us today.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a fun one.
It really is, because we are pulling from a massive wiki deep dive today into one of the most famous and honestly most fiercely debated movie lines of all time.
Fiercely debated is definitely the right phrase for it.
Right. If you are a fan of cinema history or, movie trivia or just tracing how pop culture anomalies happen, you are in for a serious ride today.
No, absolutely.
We are looking at a single line of dialogue that somehow managed to completely escape the screen and take on a bizarre life of its own.
It really did.
And that line is, "Love means never having to say you're sorry." Our mission today is to figure out exactly how a single dramatic sentence from the year 1970 became a defining cultural touchstone,
Yeah.
how it mutated into a muse for top 40 music, and ultimately how it devolved into a reliable punchline for vampires and zombies.
Which is quite the journey.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, it is a staggering trajectory, right? To understand how a line becomes that deeply embedded in our collective consciousness, we have to look at the landscape it was born into.
Right. Set the scene for us.
So the line originates from Eric Segal's novel, Love Story,
Okay.
but it was catapulted into the stratosphere by the smash hit 1970 film adaptation.
Oh, yeah. Massive movie.
Huge. You have Ally McGraw playing Jennifer Cavallari and Ryan O'Neal playing Oliver Barrett. And this wasn't just a passing piece of dialogue. It was engineered to be the thematic core of the entire production.
Right. It's the anchor.
Exactly. And you have to remember the context of 1970. Hollywood was shifting into a very cynical, gritty era.
Yeah. Films were getting much darker.
Darker, more realistic. And right in the middle of that, Love Story drops this unapologetic, heavy-handed melodrama.
Which is probably why it hit so hard. I mean, it stood out.
Oh, definitely.
It wasn't just a throwaway comment. It is the emotional bookend of the movie.
Yeah.
For those who haven't seen it, it is spoken exactly twice in the film. And the placement is completely deliberate.
It is entirely by design.
It's designed to hit the audience first as this, moment of grace, and later as a devastating callback.
Right. The emoji architecture of the film relies entirely on that repetition.
Break that down a bit, sure.
The first time we hear the line, it happens right in the middle of the narrative. Oliver has a massive outburst of anger.
Right.
He realizes he crossed the line, and he apologizes to Jennifer. That is when she responds with the phrase.
To comfort him.
Exactly. She uses it to comfort him, essentially communicating that their bond is stronger than a momentary lapse in temper.
It plays out as this moment of pure, unconditional forgiveness. But honestly, when you strip away the sweeping orchestral score and you just look at the words, isn't it kind of a wild leap to claim that love means never apologizing?
Oh, it's a huge leap.
How did audiences buy into that logic?
Well, they bought into it because of the emotional delivery, not the practical logic.
Yeah. Ah, that makes sense.
In that specific scene, it feels true to the characters. But the film doesn't let the audience linger on the logic because it brings the line back for the most devastating final blow imaginable.
The ending.
Yes. The second time it is spoken, we are at the very end of the movie. Jennifer has tragically passed away.
Right.
Oliver is confronted by his father, who has just learned of her death. The father simply says, "I'm sorry." And Oliver looks at him and repeats Jennifer's line back. Love means never having to say you're sorry.
Wow.
The movie just ends on that crushing, echoing sentiment.
It is designed to completely wreck the audience.
And it clearly worked.
It really did. It became the defining romantic sentiment of a generation.
Absolutely.
But while reading through the source material, I found a detail about the production that completely caught me off guard.
Oh, the original script.
Yes. That iconic line wasn't actually written that way in the original script.
It really wasn't.
The script initially read, "Love means not ever having to say you're sorry."
What's fascinating here is how such a seemingly minor editorial shift fundamentally alters the power of the dialogue.
Not ever versus never.
Exactly. Dropping "not ever" and replacing it with a single word never changes the entire rhythm of the sentence.
It feels very different.
It does. "Not ever" is clunky. It feels a bit too conversational, maybe even hesitant.
Yeah.
But never. Never is absolute.
It's punchier.
Yes. It makes the line lyrical. It gives it a definitive cadence that is perfectly engineered to stick in the human brain.
It elevates it.
It elevates a piece of dialogue into a maxim.
And that lyrical quality is exactly what catapulted this phrase out of the movie theaters and into the broader world.
It didn't stay contained for long.
Not at all.
Yeah.
When the American Film Institute released their 100 Greatest Movie Quotes list in 2005, this line landed at number 13.
Which is incredible.
Think about how wild that is for a second. Number 13 out of an entire century of cinema.
Yeah.
But what really strikes me is that it didn't just stay in the realm of movies. It literally became music.
It bled into the music industry almost instantly, which is incredibly rare.
So rare.
We're talking about a movie, quote, generating such an immense cultural wave that artists in entirely different mediums decided they could monetize it.
Yeah, they jumped right on it.
Just 1 year after the movie was released, in 1971, a band called Sounds of Sunshine rode that exact wave to a top 40 hit in the United States.
A top 40 hit.
And they didn't even try to hide the inspiration. The song was literally titled, "Love Means You Never Have to Say You're Sorry."
They just lifted the quote, put a melody behind it, and took it to the charts.
Pretty much.
Imagine a movie quote today having such a grip on the culture that multiple bands instantly turn it into hip-hop songs.
It just doesn't happen like that anymore.
No. And they weren't the only ones doing it. By 1972, the popular R&B group The Whispers got in on the action.
Right.
They released an entire album named Love Story.
Yeah, a whole album.
And if you cue up their track, Can't Help But Love You, the very first words you hear the opening vocal of the song is the quote. But with this brilliant little cliffhanger.
I love this detail.
They sing, "Love means never having to say your," and then they just launch into the song.
That specific detail with the Whispers is incredibly telling.
How so?
It highlights how much of a shared cultural shorthand the movie had created in just 2 years. When the Whispers used it, they didn't even need to finish the phrase.
Right, because everyone already knew it.
Exactly. The audience's brains automatically filled in the word sorry. That is the definition of a cultural phenomenon.
It really is.
Back then, monoculture was very real. A massive hit movie created a shared language across the entire country, allowing an Ivy League tragic romance to be seamlessly reinterpreted by a soulful R&B group.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because the higher you climb in pop culture, the harder you fall.
That's usually how it goes.
The backlash to this quote was almost as immediate as the success. The tears dried, the theater lights came up, and people started aggressively poking holes in the actual philosophy of the sentence.
Because it is terrible relationship advice.
It really is.
If you take the sentiment literally, it falls apart under the slightest scrutiny.
Right.
The criticism that started mounting centered on the idea that in any healthy, loving relationship, apologizing is not just necessary, it is essential.
Yeah, love requires accountability.
Exactly. So a quote that sounds profoundly romantic when delivered by a dying woman on screen becomes somewhat toxic when subjected to the cold light of real-world dynamics.
So we have this massive hit, but the public is starting to turn on the logic. Did the people involved in the film defend it, or did they see the flaws too?
This is the best part.
Yeah.
The most vocal critic wasn't a movie reviewer or a cynical audience member.
No.
It was actually the star herself.
Ally McGraw.
Yes. Ally McGraw, the very actress who looked into the camera and delivered the line, fundamentally disagreed with it.
That is amazing.
She famously and bluntly called the entire sentiment a crock.
A crock. I love that.
Yeah.
The woman who defined romance for a decade thought the core message was garbage.
It perfectly illustrates the separation between the art and the artist.
True.
McGraw understood her job was to deliver the emotional truth of her character, Jennifer, in that specific fictional moment. But as a human being, she recognized that the message was deeply flawed.
Right, she saw right through it.
And she wasn't the only one associated with the film to poke holes in its earnestness. Hollywood has a unique habit of turning on its own sincerity.
They really do.
And they did it with staggering speed here.
The speed is what blows my mind. We are talking about 1972, just 2 years after Love Story premiered. Ryan O'Neal, the leading man who wept as the line was delivered to him, went on to star in a screwball comedy called What's Up, Doc?, alongside Barbra Streisand.
Such a great movie.
And the writers could not resist the meta-comedy of the century.
It is arguably one of the greatest inside jokes in cinematic history.
Let's set that scene.
At the end of What's Up, Doc?, Ryan O'Neal's character, Howard, has to apologize to Barbra Streisand's character, Judy.
Right.
So he offers his apology. And Streisand, playing the moment with flawless comedic timing, bats her eyelashes, looks at him, and quotes his own movie back to him.
It's so good.
She says, "Love means never having to say you're sorry."
And Ryan O'Neal's response is the ultimate cultural release valve.
Yes.
He just looks at her, completely deadpan, and says, "That's the dumbest thing I ever heard."
The self-awareness in that scene is brilliant.
It's perfect.
You have the actor actively mocking his own defining career moment on screen. For the audience sitting in theaters in 1972, it was a moment of collective permission.
Permission to laugh at it.
Exactly. It allowed everyone to say, yes, we all sobbed at Love Story 2 years ago, but we also acknowledge that this philosophy is actually a bit ridiculous.
And that single moment of mockery completely opened the floodgates.
It changed everything.
The line transformed. It stopped being just a romantic quote and became a fill-in-the-blank template for pop culture.
Right. Writers realized they could continually substitute words for love or you're sorry, and the audience would instantly recognize the joke.
Yes. The source text traces this chronological journey of parodies, and we need to walk through it because the evolution spans decades and gets increasingly absurd.
It tracks the changing tastes and the growing cynicism of audiences over a 45-year period.
Let's start right at the beginning, in 1971. The immediate spoof happens before What's Up, Doc even hits theaters.
Oh, yeah, the horror film.
Advertisements for the British horror comedy film The Abominable Dr. Phibes needed a catchy hook, so they used the tagline, "Love means never having to say you're ugly."
So good.
Just 1 year out, and it is already being used to sell a horror movie.
The marketing team knew exactly what they were doing.
They really did.
Taking the ultimate symbol of tragic romance and applying it to a macabre, disfigured horror villain instantly subverts the audience's expectations. The quote was so ubiquitous that even horror fans understood the reference and appreciated the subversion.
Fast forward to 2004, and we get the animated truth bomb.
Yes. In The Simpsons episode titled Catch 'Em If You Can, the Simpson family is sitting on the couch watching Love Story. The famous line is spoken on the television, and Lisa Simpson just yells at the screen, "No, it doesn't."
Lisa represents the modern analytical audience looking back at 1970s melodrama with a critical eye.
Right, she's speaking for all of us.
By 2004, The Simpsons was largely the arbiter of pop culture logic. Lisa giving voice to that frustration is essentially the modern generation echoing Ally McGraw's own sentiment that the line is a crock.
Also, in 2004, we get a completely villainous twist.
The Princess Diaries.
Yes, this was from The Princess Diaries 2 Royal Engagement. You have the evil Viscount Mabray, played by John Rhys Davies, talking to his nephew. And the nephew is played by Chris Pine, and he's explicitly stated to be named after Niccolo Machiavelli.
Right, so he's not a great guy.
Exactly. Mabray is trying to convince this young man to usurp the throne, and he drops this incredible variation. Power means never having to say, you're sorry.
That is a brilliant psychological pivot.
It totally changes the vibe. It does. By replacing love with power, the writers perform the ultimate cynical flip. They are trading empathy for ruthless self-interest.
Yes.
It proves how structurally versatile the sentence truly is. The rhythm we talked about earlier is so strong that you can insert an entirely contradictory Machiavellian concept and it still sounds profound.
The journey gets even weirder as we move into the 2010s.
Oh, it really does.
In the 2011 film Dark Shadows, we get this deeply macabre apology.
Right.
Johnny Depp is playing the vampire Barnabas Collins. He is standing in front of a group of hippies.
Yeah.
He actually quotes the original line verbatim, telling them, "I am reminded of a line from Eric Segal's Love Story, love means never having to say you are sorry." But then, with complete deadpan sincerity, he politely adds his deep regret that he must now kill all of them.
The humor there relies on the sheer absurdity of a monster respecting 1970s cinema.
It's so strange, but it works perfectly.
He acknowledges the cultural touchstone, since the hippies would obviously recognize the quote.
Yeah.
And then uses it to juxtapose his horrific, predatory nature. It is a very clever use of the era's own earnest pop culture against it.
And finally, we arrive at the Undead update.
The ultimate final form.
In 2016, during the Season 2 finale of iZombie, an episode beautifully titled Salivation Army.
Great title.
The character Liv looks at Clive and delivers the ultimate degradation of the original sentiment. She says, "A massive zombie outbreak means never having to say you're sorry."
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this evolution is incredibly telling. We've moved from a sincere, tear-jerking drama to a setup for zombie jokes.
It's quite a leap.
Why does a culture do that? Because raw, unironic emotion is uncomfortable.
Right.
When a movie like Love Story makes millions of people cry and emotionally manipulates an entire generation, the collective culture eventually feels vulnerable.
So they strike back.
The relentless parodying becomes a defense mechanism. It is how culture reclaims its power from overly earnest art. We deflate the balloon of melodrama over time, so it can't hurt us anymore.
That is fascinating. We deflate it so it can't hurt us. So what does this all mean?
Well,
We started with a single sentence, just a handful of words meant to comfort an angry husband in a fictional story.
yeah.
And that single sentence wins AFI awards. It spawns top 40 hits that chart across the country. It completely infuriates its own leading lady.
Which is still my favorite part.
Same.
Yeah.
And it provides a reliable fill-in-the-blank punchline for over 45 years of pop culture, bridging the gap between Ryan O'Neal, Lisa Simpson, and flesh-eating zombies. It is a massive testament to the unpredictable, uncontrollable power of cinema.
I think the ultimate takeaway here is about the true ownership of art.
What do you mean?
Once an idea is put out into the world, it no longer belongs to the creator. It doesn't belong to Eric Segal. It doesn't belong to the director of the film. And it certainly doesn't belong to the actors who spoke the words.
Right, it's out of their hands.
It belongs entirely to the audience. And the audience will always do what it needs to do. They will reshape it, they will mock its core philosophy, and they will repurpose it endlessly to fit the comedic and cultural needs of their specific era.
It really makes you look at every dramatic line in movies today a little differently.
Absolutely.
Which brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with today. The next time you hear a profound-sounding quote go completely viral, whether it's from a blockbuster movie, a politician, or an influencer, ask yourself something.
Yeah.
In 50 years, will people be quoting it with reverence at a dinner party, or will it be the punchline of a zombie joke?
That is the real test.
What exactly is the invisible line that separates a profound piece of wisdom from an inescapable pop culture cliche?
It's a great question.
It is something to keep in mind the next time you find yourself moved by a piece of dialogue. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the quotes you hear every day, keep digging into the history of the media you consume, and we will catch you next time.